The signal most people miss is tiny. Your dog's mouth closes. Their eyes slide away. They drop their nose to the ground like there is suddenly something fascinating in a patch of ordinary grass. You call their name, and it feels like they disappear right in front of you. No barking, no lunging, no dramatic scene. Just that strange moment where your dog seems to stop being with you. Maybe it happens on a walk when another dog appears. Maybe guests come over, and your puppy suddenly won't respond to anything you say. Maybe your rescue dog freezes near the doorway, starts sniffing, and acts like they have never heard their name before. It looks like ignoring. It looks selective. It looks, honestly, a little rude. And that assumption makes sense. From the human side, it really does look like your dog is choosing the grass, the sidewalk, the air, literally anything but you. But this is the part that changes everything. A lot of what looks like ignoring is not indifference. It is overwhelm. It is stress. It is a nervous system getting pulled away from learning, listening, and social engagement. And if you can recognize that early, before the barking, before the leash pulling, before the shutdown or explosion, you can respond in a way that reduces conflict and helps your dog recover faster. So, in this video, I want to show you what this behavior may really mean, why dogs often stop listening when they're overloaded, how to tell the difference between overwhelm and a simple training gap, and what you can do in the moment that is calmer, safer, and actually more effective. One of the most useful ideas in behavior science is that performance changes with arousal. More than a century ago, Yerkes and Dodson described a pattern we still talk about now. A little arousal can sharpen performance, but too much starts to break it down. That applies to humans, and it helps explain dogs too. When a dog's nervous system shifts into high alert, the brain starts prioritizing safety, scanning, movement, freezing, or escape. Stress chemicals like adrenaline and cortisol can make thinking less flexible. That familiar cue your dog does beautifully in the kitchen may still be in there, but access to it gets shaky when the environment becomes too much. So yes, your dog may hear you, but hearing you and being able to respond well are not the same thing. In daily life, that means the blank stare, the sudden obsession with sniffing, the refusal to sit, the refusal to come closer, even the refusal of a treat they usually love, may be less about attitude and more about bandwidth. If you answer that moment with louder repetition, tighter leash pressure, faster hands, or obvious frustration, you usually do not create understanding. You create more load. And many dogs do not announce that load in ways humans naturally respect. They whisper it first. They slow down. They look away. They blink more. They lick their lips. They yawn when they're not tired. They shake off when they're not wet. They curve away from what's making them uneasy. They suddenly become very interested in the ground. They sit down when you expected them to keep moving. They stop taking food. They start taking food roughly. They seem scattered or strangely absent. Behavior professionals often describe some of these as displacement behaviors or appeasement signals. In plain English, the dog is trying to regulate themselves, reduce tension, or create a little emotional space. That matters because the ignoring you see may actually be the dog trying not to tip into a bigger reaction. Now, there's an important nuance here. Not every sniff means stress. Sniffing is also a normal, healthy, deeply dog thing to do. Researchers like Alexandra Horowitz have helped make it easier for owners to appreciate just how central scent is to a dog's experience of the world. So, context matters. A loose, relaxed dog investigating a hedge is different from a dog who spots a trigger, stiffens slightly, turns away from it, and starts frantic ground sniffing while you keep repeating a cue. Look for clusters, look for timing, look for change. If the mouth closes, the body slows, the dog stops taking treats, and the ignoring starts right as the environment gets harder, that is information. And here is where owners often get trapped by a second misunderstanding. They think, but my dog knows this, and they may be right. The dog may know it at home. The dog may know it in the yard. The dog may know it when nothing emotionally important is happening. But dogs do not generalize the way we do. A cue learned in the kitchen is not automatically the same cue in a parking lot, outside a cafe, in the vet lobby, near a skateboard, beside a barking fence, or while a stranger is leaning over them. Overwhelm and incomplete learning often travel together. The harder environment doesn't just reveal distraction. It exposes that the skill was never truly easy there. Then there is learning history. Classical conditioning matters here. If coming to you often predicts the end of play, the leash clipped on, being guided toward a scary hallway, or getting handled when the dog is already worried, hesitation makes sense, not morally. Behaviorally, your dog is responding to what that moment has meant before, so instead of asking only, "Does my dog know this?" ask, "What does this moment predict from my dog's point of view?" That question is gold, because what looks stubborn from the outside can be very coherent from the dog's side. This is especially important with puppies and rescue dogs. Puppies hit sensory overload fast. They can go from curious to chaotic to completely checked out in minutes. New puppy owners often think the puppy is being silly or dramatic when, in reality, the puppy's brain is simply flooded. The busy sidewalk, the passing stroller, the person who wants to say hi, the new smell, the harness rubbing strangely, the sound of traffic, your own rising tension because the puppy isn't listening anymore. All of that stacks. Rescue dogs can be even more confusing. A newly adopted dog may look quiet, easy, almost unbelievably compliant, when what you are actually seeing is caution, inhibition, or shutdown. Then, a few weeks later, they start avoiding eye contact outside, refusing food on walks, lagging behind, or seeming to ignore you near certain people or places. Owners often feel crushed by that. They think, "We were doing so well." Sometimes that is not a setback at all. Sometimes it is the dog finally showing you where their stress lives. Research from people like Adam Miklosi and Josef Topal has helped show that many dogs use humans as attachment figures, a kind of secure base. But secure attachment does not mean every stressed dog runs toward you for comfort. Some do. Some lean into contact. Some get busy. Some go still. Some disconnect because direct engagement itself feels like pressure when they are already overloaded. And that is the emotional reframe I wish more dog owners had. Your dog may not be giving you a hard time. Your dog may be having a hard time. That pause you read as defiance may actually be the nervous system saying, "I can't do this the way you want right now." That look away may not be disrespect. It may be an attempt to lower social pressure. That sudden fascination with the ground may not be your dog choosing dirt over you. It may be your dog trying to hold themselves together. Once you see that, your response changes. And this is where many loving owners get stuck. They wonder, should I comfort my dog or will I reinforce it? This is a really common fear. But fear and overwhelm are emotional states, not little performances your dog is putting on for rewards. Calm support usually does not create the fear. What matters more is whether your support actually helps. If you softly say, "It's okay," while keeping your dog trapped beside the thing that is flooding them, your voice may help a little. But the dog is still in too much. If you pair calm reassurance with more distance, fewer demands, a slower pace, and a clear path out, now you are speaking a language the nervous system understands. So what do you actually do in the moment? Start by learning to catch the shift earlier. Most people wait for the obvious behavior, the barking, the leash explosion, the flat-out refusal. But the most useful moment is earlier, when the body changes, the mouth closes, the eyes start scanning, the dog's pace changes, the treat suddenly loses value, the sniffing changes quality, the tail drops, the body gets higher and tighter or lower and slower. Earlier is easier. Earlier gives you options. Then change the environment before you try to change the dog. If you think overwhelm may be involved, create space. Cross the street. Step behind a parked car. Turn and walk in an arc instead of marching straight past the trigger. Let the greeting not happen. Let the dog look from farther away. Distance is not failure. Distance is one of the fastest ways to lower how much your dog has to process. Next, lower your own pressure. One cue, once, in a calm voice is information. Saying it 5 times is usually pressure. Leaning over the dog, tightening the leash, reaching for the collar, or pushing a treat into the face of a worried dog can make them feel more trapped. A slightly turned body, softer hands, and a simple invitation to move with you is often easier to follow than direct insistence. If your dog can move, movement often helps. If your dog is frozen, your first job is not precision. It is safety and decompression. Then reinforce reconnection, not just polished behavior. If your dog glances back at you after a hard moment, follows you away from the trigger, takes a breath, takes a treat again, or chooses to orient to you when they could have stayed locked onto the environment, that matters. Quietly reward that. Reward recovery. Reward the decision to come back into contact. That is often the first step before good behavior shows up again. Also, treat food refusal as data. If your dog normally loves treats and suddenly won't take them, or takes them and spits them out, or grabs them hard without really being able to eat, that tells you something about their state. It does not mean you found the wrong snack. Sometimes it means the nervous system is too activated for eating to work as support. In that case, trying to lure the dog closer to the thing that worries them is usually a bad trade. Relief first, learning later. And finally, build capacity outside the hard moment. Shorter outings can be wiser than longer ones. A quieter route can be more therapeutic than a good socialization plan that overwhelms the dog. More sleep matters. Recovery days matter. Predictable routines matter. Opportunities to sniff and decompress matter. Choice matters. The dog who seems stubborn on Saturday may simply be depleted from Thursday and Friday. Stress stacks. It rarely arrives alone. Sometimes the kindest thing is not more exposure, it is a quieter week. Now, this does not mean every moment of ignoring is overwhelm. Sometimes your dog is simply underprepared for that environment. Sometimes the squirrel is more interesting. Sometimes the cue has a messy history. Sometimes the dog has learned that pausing, sniffing, or planting their feet buys time. Dogs repeat what works. They are not plotting against you. They are navigating outcomes. So, how can you tell the difference? If your dog can still move fluidly, take food, respond to easy cues, reorient quickly, and the problem appears mainly when something more rewarding is available, you may be looking at distraction, incomplete training, or conflicting reinforcement. If your dog gets stiff, shuts down, scans, pants when it isn't hot, lip licks, yawns, refuses food, pulls away, goes suddenly still, or cannot reorient even after you add distance, overwhelm is more likely, and sometimes both are true. A dog can be undertrained and over-threshold at the same time. That is why frustration is such a bad diagnostic tool. It collapses everything into one interpretation. My dog knows better. Observation gives you better information. What changed? What came right before? What is the body saying? What helps recovery? What makes it worse? There are also moments when this pattern deserves closer attention. If the ignoring shows up around handling, grooming, harnessing, clipping the leash on, taking things away, children, crowded sidewalks, other dogs, or just before growling, snapping, lunging, or bolting, do not treat it like a simple manners problem. Those quiet, avoidant moments are often the early chapter of a bigger story. Slow things down, manage the environment, prevent rehearsals of panic or conflict. And if the pattern is intense, escalating, or risky, bringing in a qualified, force-free behavior professional can make a huge difference. And if your dog suddenly seems checked out in situations that used to be easy or no longer wants to be touched, guided, picked up, or approached the way they once did, physical discomfort deserves consideration too. Sometimes the dog that looks defiant is protecting a sore body. What makes all of this so powerful is that the behavior is small. A look away, a pause, a drift out of conversation. A dog who seems to go somewhere else while standing right beside you. But the small signals are where trust is built. If you only listen once the dog has to bark, lunge, snap, or shut down, you are joining the conversation late. If you learn to answer the earlier whisper, life with your dog changes. There is less conflict, less guessing, less shame, more clarity, more compassion. And over time, often better behavior too. So the next time your dog seems to ignore you, try asking a different question. Not, how do I make them listen? First ask, what just became too much? That one shift can change the way your dog experiences you. If your dog has a version of this that used to frustrate you, tell me in the comments what it looks like. The tiny signals are often the most revealing. And if you want more videos that decode ordinary dog behavior in a deeper, more useful way, subscribe.